All right, 2.1 networks, including the internet, local area networks, wide area networks, client server, and peer-to-peer. So let's take a look at our learning targets. So we need to show an understanding of the purpose and benefits of networking devices, show an understanding of the characteristics of a local area network and a wide area network, explain the client server and peer-to-peer models of network computers, and talk about the benefits, drawbacks, the roles of computers, and then at the end, we'll take a look at two situations and then justify the use of a specific model. So let's go ahead and get started. So local area versus wide area network. So LAN, when people talk about LAN parties or LAN networks, they're talking about a local area network. They usually are small and they cover about one small business or building. They connect to other computers and they share devices like printers. Now the WAN stands for wide area network. They are made up of multiple local area networks connected together through public communications such as telephone lines or satellites. Now, because a wide area network is made up of many local area networks, it may be a private network which will require user ID and password to access. The internet is a huge number of decentralized networks and computers have a common point of access. Anyone with access to the internet can connect to the computers on these networks, and this is why it's different than a wide area network. And when we say this is why it is different, we're talking about this is why the internet is different than a wide area network. So let's talk about some of the benefits. Well, devices can be shared. For example, printers, which reduce hardware costs. If you have a printer on a network, everybody can connect to that printer and print whenever they need. That way, not everybody needs their own individual printer. Licenses to run software on networks are often cheaper than buying licenses for each standalone computer. Users can share files and data, access to reliable data that comes from a central source like a file server. Data and files can be backed up at the end of each day. Users can communicate using instant messaging and email, allowing them to communicate very quickly. A network manager can oversee the network and apply access rights to certain files or even restrict access to external networks like the internet. So those are some benefits with networks, but there are some drawbacks as well. Cabling and servers can be an expensive upfront cost. Managing a large network can be complex and difficult to manage. Now, if the file server goes down, that can affect the whole network, essentially bringing it to a standstill. Malware and hacking can also infect entire networks, especially if a local area network is part of a much larger wide area network. Now, there are firewalls which offer some protection for this. So let's start with the client-server model. Now, in the client-server model, you have a user's computer known as the client and what they access, which is known as a server, hence the name. So we have 4 different clients here, and they're connecting to a server, and that's why it's called the client-server model. But there's a little bit more involved in the client-server model. Client's computer connects to the server, and they access most of the files which are stored on the server. Now, the server decides which users are able to access which files. Central security databases require usernames and passwords for clients to log in and only have access to files assigned by their network administrator. That way they can't just, access anything they want to. Now, a benefit of this is you can make them as large as you want, and they're easy to scale larger and larger and larger. So when you have the client server model, you can easily make it as big as you want. But with benefits also come drawbacks. And one of the drawbacks with a large system is if there are too many clients making requests at the same time, it's going to slow it down, and we call that bottlenecking. So let's continue with the client server model. Now, a central server stores, delivers, and sends email. That's what servers do. There's servers for all kinds of different things. Now, a client server model is the most stable. If someone deletes a shared resource from the server, the backup system, which was most likely done at night, will restore the deleted resource. File server is used and is responsible for central storage and management of data files, allowing other network users to access these files. Now, it allows users to share information without the need for offline devices like memory sticks or external hard drives. They can allow any computer to be a host machine and act as a file server that could also be a remote storage devices for others' computers. So the client-server model focuses on the sharing of data. So if you have the client-server model, it's focusing mainly on the sharing of data, which is different from the peer-to-peer model. So let's talk and dive into the peer-to-peer model. In a peer-to-peer model, connectivity is the main focus, not sharing data. So in the client server, it's all about sharing the data, and peer-to-peer is about being connected. Each node that joins the network is allowed to do many things. But first, what do they mean by node? So we have this new word, node. What do they mean by that? So here we have a peer-to-peer network model, and everything that is connected to the network is considered a node. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in this peer-to-peer network model picture, we have 8 nodes. All right, so each node or computer or device that is connected is allowed the services given to all other network users. When a user requests a service, a nominated lookup computer is contacted to find out which of the other nodes connected can provide that requested service. Each node has access to other users' data and can communicate with other peers connected to the network. Peers are both suppliers and their consumers, unlike the client-server model in which they are separate. So peers are both the suppliers and consumers. They are providing, but they are also accessing. They participate as equals on the network. Let's talk a little more about the peer-to-peer model. So there's no central server. There's no central server. That would be the client-server model. Because there's no central server, any node on the network can share its files with all the other nodes that are connected, and each of the nodes will have its own data. With no central storage, there's no requirement to authenticate users. So this means there's little, if at all, any security. It is impossible to know who's authorized to share certain data. So that is a drawback of the peer-to-peer model. The model works best when, say, there's no more than about 10 nodes are required, like a small business where it's easy for users to be in contact with each other regularly. Too much, more than 10 nodes, that's going to lead to performance and management issues, making it much more difficult. So that's the difference between the client-server model, the peer-to-peer model, the wide area network, the local area network, and the internet. So now we're going to take a look at 2 scenarios because they also want us to justify the use for a given situation. So let's take a look at the first situation. Annika wants to buy her sister Aria a gift for her birthday. She decides to do some online shopping and finds a website with a killer deal for a pair of shoes. She logs into her account and checks out using her credit card. Now, at any given time, there could be other customers using the website at the same time. What model would work best and why? Let's pause here and give you a chance to answer. All right, so going over the answer, that is the client-server model. Why? And that's because she's logging into her account, which means if she's logging into her account, she needs a user ID and password. And we don't want everybody being able to access her account. So that would be the big indication that is the client-server model. At any given time, there could be other customers using the website. If other customers are using the website, they should not be able to connect to her and get data that she has. That would be peer-to-peer. All right, let's take a look at another situation. A local library in a town has a Minecraft night every Friday. Users are allowed to bring their own equipment where they can connect to other users bringing their own equipment. Now, when the room gets full, and it holds about 8, another room opens up. Each user in each room is connected to each other. Each user can see what each user is doing. So based on this, what model would work best and why? So let's pause here. All right, and taking a look at the model, we can see that each user can see what each user is doing, where they're connecting to one another, and that is the peer-to-peer network. And here it says it holds about 8, and that's to prevent too much data, too many people connecting at the same time, slowing down the access or slowing down the speed of connectivity to one another. So that's going to be it for this one. If you have a question, please post it below. If you have a comment, please Post it below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And we'll see you guys in the next one.